There are 8 callers on the call.
Cool. And there's 12 of us here, 13 of us here. And this is the obstacle course, first night, and welcome everybody. I'm gonna, if you can't hear me, people on the phone especially, if you can't hear me, let me know, and I'll try to speak up. And if you can't hear anybody during the sharing, it's your job just to speak up and ask them to speak up so that everybody can hear. Because this is a workshop and we will be doing some sharing. The title of this work is The Obstacle Course, and we're going to be taking a look at the obstacles that are mentioned primarily, I believe it is in chapter 1 of Pointing at the Moon. And I don't think we're going to break through all those obstacles, but my hope during this workshop is that we will see them. We'll look at them one at a time, one a week, and my hope is that we will see them clearly and come up with some way to work on getting past them or over them or through them, and heighten our awareness of the obstacle and what it's costing us so that we can make some progress. And that can't be the only work that we do, because just playing with obstacles it's nice to get rid of the things that are blocking transcendental consciousness, but we need to also, on the other hand, continue to be working positively on our transcendental consciousness, on achieving the consciousness that is the goal of this work. And that is what the healing work that we've done for the past 2 years has been all about. It's, as Joel said all during 2006 or 7 when we listened to all the Joel tapes, he kept emphasizing that the purpose of doing healing work is that the practice it gives the practitioner. And Herb, of course, echoed that. The reason for doing healing work is, the obvious one, is because successfully accomplishing healings proves the principle, proves the truth, proves that this works, and attracts other people to the work, which is part of our function, is to grow this group and grow this consciousness. But the primary reason we do healing work is because every time we do healing work, what we're doing is healing ourselves of the belief that there can be a problem, which is to say that every time we're involved in a healing exercise, we're lifting ourselves into transcendental consciousness, or we're not doing healing work. And it's that practice which grows our own consciousness. So I want to find a way to continue to emphasize the healing work all through this fall work. For those of you on the telephone who may not know, we have put together a practitioners group here, and that group is made up of the people that have been doing the healing work for 2 years. I looked back, and for your information, we heard the 10 Joel tapes that he says are the tapes that contain all the healing principles of the infinite way. That's the 1959 healing work. And we then listened to another 6 or 8 Joel tapes as he took that work to New York and Manchester and London and 3 or 4 different cities so that we could hear that work retaught. So we heard 16 or 18 Joel tapes over 32 or 36 weeks. And then we listened this past year to Herb Fitch's 1989 Chicago preparation tapes, of which there were 8. So we listened to those for 16 weeks. I'm naming these explicitly so that you people who haven't done this work and would like to do so can find the tapes. Then we listened to Herb Fitch's 1990 work, the Chicago Healing Seminar, which was again 8 tapes for 16 weeks. And then we listened to 1 tape out of the 1988 Chicago, San Diego Transition Seminar, tape number 5. And then we listened to 1 tape out of the 1979 Avila Beach Beyond Time Seminar, tape number 7. The Joel tapes are available from the Infinite Way on tape or CD, and the Herb Fitch tapes are available from Mary Lou Fitch in Oregon, and her phone number is available on the website under links. So if you want to do this work, why, you can do so. If you want to be added to the practitioner list, why, just let me know and I will add your name to the list. You don't need to have any special requirements or anything. These are the people who want to practice. A practitioner is not an accomplished healer. A practitioner is one who practices. And so this is the group who is practicing healing. But signing up takes on a responsibility because what I'm saying when I put myself on the practitioners list is that when somebody reaches out for help, I intend to sit down right at that time and try to arrive at the height of consciousness that can lift them out of their hypnotism. Okay, so there's the responsibility when we receive a call or when we receive an email to do the work. And also, it seems to me that if that person crosses our mind again during the day, if they keep coming back to our mind, we should then sit down again, and do the work again. And this work is probably 5 minutes worth of work, 5 or 10, but the point is to attain the silence and let whatever is going to happen, happen. And I hope that most of you will join us at 5:30 in the morning. We're doing a healing meditation every morning from 5:30 to 6 in the morning. And in that meditation, I'm encouraging people to listen to the 2 Herb Fitch meditations that are on the last week of the Herb Fitch class that's on the website there. There's 2 meditations there, a 5-minute one and a 20-minute one, which are the best healing meditations I've ever heard, in my own opinion. And what I do is listen to those between 5:30 and 6. I just start them at 5:30 and listen. It takes 25 minutes, and I listen to them, and I've probably heard the 2 of them now, well, I would say conservatively 100 times. And every time I hear them a little deeper. So if you haven't heard them 50 or 60 times, you aren't hearing them yet. Now, if you are doing the practitioner work, you certainly don't have to do that. You can do whatever you're led to do. It's absolutely your own call. But my sense is that if we work together, there's a real advantage in that we lift each other. And so we will probably, by working together, we will probably each individually attain heights that we would not attain were we working on our own. So that's one positive. The other positive is that people who call for help can join us from 5:30 to 6 and should be encouraged to do so that they get the full benefit of the combined consciousness. And the other benefit is that I would think that anybody who's doing that work every day for any significant period of time will suddenly discover that they are experiencing only 10 or 15% of the physical problems that the people around them are experiencing. Joel says consistently that if you're doing the work, we should expect to have, 90% of the problems that are besetting other people, both physical and all types of problems, employment problems and relationship problems, and all these problems should disappear as a result of joining in that group consciousness, that group meditation every morning. So I would expect that we would discover that we all are getting healthy, staying healthy, and being much healthier than the crowds around us, laughing at the people who know that the flu season is here or that there's a cold going around. I always laugh people, well, there's a bad cold going around this week, and we should essentially free ourselves of that. And there's lots of evidence that that's possible. Joel did a study when he was back in Boston with the Christian Science Church and discovered that the Christian Science, the students at the school that were Christian Scientists, parents, children, had a 80% better attendance record than the people who were not children of Christian Scientists. So there's lots of evidence that the healing work works. And I think the reason we were led to do this work for 2 years was so that we can start demonstrating it. So I hope as many of you as feel led to do so will join in and get your name on the practitioners list. And if you need to catch up, why do so? You can get the CDs or get the tapes and start listening to them. And, just a tape a week or something like that will do fine. And realize that it's for your own benefit, not the callees. And we've had a couple of people who have called with fairly serious problems that we've been working on, and I've encouraged both of them to contact us every day and let us know. If the problem is solved, great, we should know so we can stop the work. But if the problem is not solved, we should know so that we will, first of all, continue working. But second of all, if you let us know every day that you're not making any progress or having a little progress, but you're not healed yet or such like, it may cause us to reach further. Herb says this in one of his tapes, when people call him 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, he starts feeling like he's really got to bear down, and so if people press us to do the work, we will reach harder, and I hope we will reach harder and harder and try harder and harder and redouble our efforts. And of course what we're doing is redoubling our effort to attain transcendental consciousness. We're not redoubling our efforts to heal them, but we're feeling like they need help, and so it's forcing us to do the work that we exactly need to do. So I guess by now you understand that I think this is an important part of this work, and I hope we will all continue to do so. So please call if you have anything at all that you would like help dealing with, or that you have anything at all that you would like to share with us so that we get the benefit of dealing with it. And if you have a serious problem and you're asking for help, hold our feet to the fire. Don't feel shy about writing every day or calling every day asking for help. You're doing us a favor. Hold our feet to the fire. Make us give you service. Make us break your problem. I'm reminded that Joel's first case of tuberculosis took him 6 months of daily work and letters to the lady. He spent 6 months before he got her out of the intensive care in the tuberculosis house that she had been sent to die. And another 3 months before he got her out of the house, and another 3 months before she was clear. So this was Joel, who was, an amazing healer. It took him a year to break his first case of tuberculosis. Of course, the second one only took him a week. Okay? So as we get new problems, we'll spend whatever energy is necessary to break them, and then we will get better at it. Enough on that. Most of these classes, I think we'll spend the first half hour. First of all, we'll meditate from 7:15 to 7:30. The doors open at 7 o'clock here. Then we'll spend the first half hour sharing about our experience with healing work or with working with the preceding week's obstacle. And then we'll spend the second half hour talking about the new obstacle and discussing that or saying whatever we need to say about that. And my goal is to wrap up at 8:30, be done by 8:30, to only run the class for 1 hour. Although if people want to stay on and talk or the class goes on, why, that's fine. I'm not going to slam the door at 8:30 or anything, but my goal is to present the new material before 8:30 so that people who are on the phone or people that are in Toronto or wherever that, can make schedules. And tonight we don't have an obstacle to share about, so I would like to hear from anybody who's been listening to the healing tapes for 2 years now, What changes have you experienced? Have you experienced a deepening in consciousness? Have you felt the clicks as you listen to her over and over again? What's been your experience with that work physically? Do you have anything to share about that work? And those of you who are on the telephone, you'll just have to jump in and speak up because I can't see hands. So my experience is that every time I listen to a Herb tape, 2 or 3 or 4 times, I start feeling little clicks as what he's saying comes through to me, because it's not the words so much, it's the consciousness that we're sitting in, that we're experiencing. And I get little clicks every time I hear these tapes, and I've heard them. You can't imagine how many times I've heard these tapes, all these tapes, and all these meditations. And I get clicks every time I hear them. By clicks, I mean that I feel a deepening in my understanding, okay? I don't ever know anything new intellectually. I haven't learned any new fact. I haven't learned a new truth. I'm not hearing anything I haven't heard before or understood before. I'm just feeling these little clicks, this little sigh, and I know that the understanding is deeper. And I also know, since there's no words with it, that this is going on outside the intellect. It's going in at the spirit, the level of spirit. And completely bypassing the intellect. And this is where the work is. The understanding this stuff is nothing, but getting it deep down is what we want to do. So I find dwelling in these tapes, I've just been feeling click, 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 click all the way along. So it's been a good experience for me, and I've seen changes in many of you, but I would like to hear any of you share that would like to.
This is Adele. I like to share. This has been really wonderful. I've been doing this since we started, and I've listened to these tapes here and at least twice a day for a long time. And what I was thinking of is I haven't been sick. I haven't gotten anything as far as colds or anything that I used to have all the time. But and in hearing that, I really know that it's hypnotism, and that there is no problem. I really know that, and so I wasn't talking about things that were happening that causing me physical pain, and because who cares if it's not real? Why even name that as a problem if I am really understanding it's not a problem? And I had like 8 months of just crippling pain in my shoulder. And finally Lee said, well, that doesn't seem to be working. Why don't you ask the group to help? And so I put that first email out. And I
actually, she was in such pain that she couldn't put the first email out. She had to ask me to put the first email out.
Oh, that was this weekend.
She was absolutely incapable of putting together an email, just to let you know where she was really at when she finally
This
called
was the one before.
Yeah, okay.
No, and then last week, everything appeared as though I had a stroke. And we didn't realize when it was happening, but a couple days ago, I could hardly see or walk, and then I called Lee, and I'm really getting better. I mean, like, incredibly, and I'm real grateful to the group, and I think it's hard in doing all this work all this time to still have these things come up, and it must be to break it for me. And that, I need you guys to do that too. And I also need that if something's going on with you, that you share it with me, because it feels lonely to be someone in the same group and not be hearing from everyone else with whatever your things are, whatever it looks like. And so I just wanted to say that.
Actually, we worked 3 days in a row. Since you called, I've been working from 4:30 to 6 every morning to try to break through that, because you were in such difficulty with it. And it does work. So, second and third call, then we work harder.
Unbelievable.
There's no reason. These are physical problems, relationship problems, financial problems are teaching devices. It is a false belief or a false concept, or maybe stuff that you don't believe anymore, but is so deeply conditioned into you. And this is the stuff that comes up and needs to be worked and needs to be met. And by calling for help, it's not like we're announcing the problem. What we're announcing is the fact that we have not yet risen to the height that we can manifest the lack of problem, okay? And, if I call for help, I'm not asking you to fix my arm. I'm asking you to lift me to the point that I really know at the level that I need to know it, that I don't even have an arm, okay? So, reaching for help is an important thing to do, because it makes the work go a lot quicker. It doesn't matter whether you grind through it yourself over 12 months. Let's suppose you work on your own pain for 12 months and finally break it, okay? That means that you've attained the height where you're no longer manifesting the pain. Let's suppose instead that you call the group and you get it broken in 2 days. That means you've attained the height where you're no longer manifesting the pain. And the height is the same, the consciousness is the same, the progress is the same. The only difference is that you missed out on 363 days of pain. Okay? Call for help, get a lift. There's no trophies for doing it yourself, Who else wants to share?
This is Jay, and I just first and foremost want to testify to the difference in my perception of the world now as opposed to a couple years ago. And I don't know what it was about the Herb Fitch work that resonated with me so clearly, but I've been able to be more faithful to the practice of listening to it every day. And so Del and I said we've listened to it every morning and every night since we started, and the difference in our perception of a lot of things has changed greatly.
Mm-hmm. Those are the little clicks I'm talking about.
From a practical level, I was able to show up at and maybe this is a good illustration of what you were just talking about. Somehow I felt that I needed to show up at a job that I had for a period of time, no matter what, do what it was that I said I was going to do, and it was a very daunting task, but I came up with some very simple tools that allowed me to do it and to do it with good cheer. but I finally reached the point that I couldn't change my consciousness by being there anymore. And the voice said very clearly, you got to go. And we took a step out, and I've got this amazing opportunity playing with some really fun products, and I feel more creative than I've felt in probably 4 or 5 years. And for those of you who know me, this has been my particular spiritual tumbleweed that I've been rolling around with off and on for years. So it's and then the other thing that's been really important for me is that just with Adele and I getting some very clear things that we've been doing every day together, just about. And it generally starts with the meditation. Sometimes we don't hit it, but another thing that's been really, really important in lifting our consciousness is spending half an hour a day walking with each other. And if there's anybody out there that's got some people that because I can't begin to tell you how many times these talks have ended up being about the truths that we've heard, different shifts in the perceptions, talking about the clicks, and we've raised each other in ways that I can think of at least a dozen times when we've had huge breakthroughs just from the thing of taking the walks, and you know, we didn't mean to. We're going to talk about this, but it's what flowed out from us. So it's been tremendous. Cool. Thanks. Thank you.
Anybody else made any progress over the past 2 years? They would like to share about it? Well, it's hard sharing about my progress, I understand. Gee, I'm so much better now. I'm a saint now. I've made so much progress. So let's talk about the first obstacle. The last 3 or 4 herb tapes, I'm sure you noticed the extent to which he started focusing on the fact that healing work needs to take place outside of time, and the fact that he was talking about omnipresence a lot. And so the first obstacle, we're going to start easy. The first obstacle that we're going to start with is working on getting to be here. And next week we'll do now. We'll work on here and now, which means getting outside of space and getting outside of time. The obstacle is really not here, but there. There is the obstacle. Thinking there's a there, or even somewhere is an obstacle. Thinking you're somewhere. All these are the obstacle. There's a conditioned way of thinking that I'm somewhere and that soon I'll be there. Right now I'm here, but I'm going to be there. Robert used to say, I heard him say this lots of times, never let your thoughts go beyond your nose. Okay? And what he meant by that is don't go out there. Don't let your thoughts go out there, because there isn't an out there. It's all in here. And he's sort of using your nose as that visible outside line where that's the extent of me. You know, I'm here inside the body and my nose is the extent of me. And And that's our usual way of thinking. And his comment was, don't let your thoughts go beyond your nose, stay in here because it's all in here. So that's what we'll talk about tonight. The definition of here, my definition of here, is where I am conscious. Okay? Here means where I am, and it really means where I am conscious. And the immediate conclusion that we come to, if we go back to the very beginning of pointing at the moon, our basic axiom there is that all there is consciousness. And if here is where I'm conscious, then all there is here. Okay? Everywhere is here. So I made some points about defeating there. My first comment was when we were watching the sunset, or when you're watching the moon or something. Well, let's take the sun. If you're looking at the sun, you think the sun is there. Actually, the sun hadn't been there for 9 minutes. The sun has moved on. It's taken the light from the sun. Even if you think there really is a sun out there, it's taken the light 9 minutes to get here. So what I'm looking at is not the sun. I'm looking at the light from the sun that's striking my eyes here. Okay? So I'm not seeing the sun there. I'm seeing light here. And the same is true for sounds. You hear a clap of thunder, and you can count the seconds to find out how many miles away the thunder was, and the thunder actually happened that many seconds ago. The flash, we're always here, and all the sensory input we have is here. It's striking my fingers, it's striking my ears, it's striking my eyes. I'm never in contact with anything out there. I'm only in contact with things that are touching my sensory input here. And as I pointed out in pointing at the moon, I had a little bit of an awakening, which I didn't realize was any sort of an awakening when I was quite young. It wasn't that I realized there isn't anything out there. What I realized was that I couldn't prove there was anything out there. And my reasoning went that if I'm looking at an apple, I think I used the apple example in the book. If I'm looking at an apple, I see an apple out there. But what I'm really seeing is light reflected off the apple, photons reflected off the apple, striking my eye at a certain frequency, which gives it the color of red. That's the story they tell us. But now these photons at a certain frequency hit my retina, and they get converted into electrical impulses. And now the electrical impulses go up my optic nerve, and they go to some sort of an optical center in my brain. And up in my brain now, there's electrical impulses flittering around, okay? And yet, there's this image of an apple. And that was what puzzled me. All my brain has ever experienced is electrical impulses flittering around. You know? My brain never saw an apple. My brain never saw anything. All it experiences is pulsing neurons firing around inside the brain. Where did the image of the apple come from? You know? That was my question. I couldn't figure out where the picture came from, or where the when you listen to a tone, where does the actual tone come from? What's going on in the brain is, again, electrical impulses flying around. Where does the sound come from? Where does the taste come from? Where does the image come from? And this was the problem that I couldn't resolve. And I also knew that there was no way that I could prove there actually was an apple out there, because all I've got is these electrons, these electrical impulses flittering around in my brain, and this image, which I can't explain where it came from, but there's no reason to tie it to anything outside. And the other thing I realized, of course, is that exactly this the same impulses and the same images and all this occur at night while I'm dreaming when there really isn't anything out there. That I go to sleep at night and I dream, and I can dream about an apple. And I have the same image, and it has the same reality that the apple does during the day, and I can take a bite out of it, and it has the same taste, and it has the same smooth, shiny look and feel. And so it became very clear to me that I couldn't prove there was anything out there, because I did it all the time in the dream and everywhere. So that got me thinking. Dreams give us our first insight into what here means. If I'm in my dream, the me in my dream thinks here is where that me is in the dream. So I'm dreaming that I'm walking across a street in the dream, okay? And the me in the dream thinks that he's walking across the street. And his here is the street and the body walking across the street. Okay? That's where the me in the dream thinks he's conscious. But in reality, the me that's dreaming it, the whole thing is in my consciousness. And the entire dream is here to me, the dreamer. It's not just the here of the Lee in the dream, but the here for the dreamer, the Lee in the bed that's dreaming this, is the entire dream. It's all here. I'm conscious of it all. I see it all. It's all right here. And it's a little bubble inside my brain, by the way. A little bubble inside my brain that's got this image of me crossing the street. So there's two senses of here, there. There's the here, there. There's two senses of here. There's the here of the Lee in the dream, and there's the here of the dreamer, which is the entire dream, because the dreamer is conscious of the entire dream, or the entire dream takes place in the dreamer's consciousness. And that's what's going on in this world. When I'm identified in this waking world, so to speak, when I'm identified with Lee, then I think I'm here in this physical body, perhaps crossing the street or sitting here in this chair, and I think I'm here in this chair. But when I identify with the transcendental consciousness, the consciousness that is containing this whole picture, my consciousness, I'm conscious of, right now, I'm conscious of this entire room and all you people in this room, okay? So, at least here for me now is the entire room, not just where this Lee body is sitting in this chair. So here is not the chair, here is this entire room, okay? So, if you had a God's eye view, or a what is eye view, we're going to drop her terminology and infinite weight terminology, but if you were if you were what is, if you were the consciousness, then everything would be here. And that's what omnipresence means. That's what we mean when we say what is omnipresent. It means that everything is in the consciousness of what is, just as everything is present in my dream to the me who is dreaming. And to the little Lee who's down inside the dream, what's present is his consciousness, is what he can see, okay? So, I've told a couple of you, Robert gave me a neat device for getting a real sense of here. What we want to do is, what we can do, what we can learn to do this week, is even while we're not in transcendental consciousness, so to speak, even while we think we're wearing these bodies and being in this world, we can learn to experience what being here in the omnipresent sense means, what being in the eternal omnipresent here means. It's a very distinct feeling in your consciousness from being locally here. And you can learn to switch between being universally here and locally here. And that's a switch in consciousness. That's a real switch in consciousness. Well, one way to do it for those of you who've been practicing the awareness exercise is when you do the be aware of I am, when you're experiencing the awareness of I am, big I, capital I, when you're aware of I am, Barbara's question is, well, where are you now? And the answer is, well, I'm not in my body. The body is within me, okay? Now that's the universal I here. When I'm aware of the I am that I am, then I am here in the universal sense. And that's something we want to, that's an experience we want to shoot for. And it can be done through the awareness exercise, but there's a much easier way that Robert told me about. And I told Adele and 2 or 3 others, if you're driving down the freeway, the conditioned experience is that here I am driving down the freeway and I'm going from here to there and I'm moving down the freeway, passing through space, going from what used to be here, which is now back there, to what's going to be here, which is now up there, and I'm moving through space, okay? And that's the way we think about it. Now the interesting thing is that if you're doing that, if I'm doing that, then I'm never anywhere. Because if you consider a freeway exit, I'm approaching a freeway exit, and then I all of a sudden go past the freeway exit, and I was maybe at the freeway exit for one point, but a point is infinitesimally small, just like an instant is infinitesimally small, so I was only at that place for no time. And, you know, so I was through it so fast that I was never there. So what I'm doing is successively, as I drive down the freeway, never being anywhere, but going through lots of wheres. The alternative is to be, while you're driving down the freeway, suddenly be aware that I'm here in my car. Okay? And be here in your car, sitting here stationary in my car. And now I'm not driving down the freeway approaching that exit sign. Now that exit sign is approaching me. I'm sitting here in my car, and that exit sign is approaching me, and it zips by overhead, and now it's going back behind me, and I'm just sitting here in my car watching exit signs approach and go over my head and disappear behind me. And I'm sitting here. Okay? And you can make that switch. It's a trivial switch. Robert pointed that out to me, and I tried it, and made it immediately. I can sit in my car and be here the whole time and watch the freeway go past and watch exit signs come past, and occasionally I turn my wheel and redirect my view of what's approaching me. I can press on my accelerator and speed up how fast it approaches me. I can hit the brake and slow down how fast it approaches me. But I'm sitting here, and I can always have the sense of being here. And that's a real experience, and what I want to suggest that we do this week is when you're driving, practice switching between going down the freeway and never being anywhere, and notice that you're never anywhere, you're just never quite at any point. And the alternative is to be here in the car and watch the freeway approach and go past you. And you have a real sense of here, and it's a very different feeling consciously. Everything else is the same. The car feels the same, your butt feels the same, your tiredness, everything else is the same, but it's a very different experience of driving. A very different experience being here rather than going through going down the freeway. So when you have got that, then ask yourself the question, well, how far out does my here really extend? Does my here, I'm being here, does my here only extend to the limits of the car? Where does my here stop? This is the same question as when you're aware of I am. Where does my I am stop? So play with that, because if you're sitting here in your car, you don't even need to think of the freeway off-ramp signs as approaching you and disappearing behind you. You can just think about being here, conscious of everything all the way out to the horizon, My here extends all the way to the horizon. And in fact, I'm sitting here in this horizon and the picture's changing. Okay? You don't need to think in terms of it approaching me and I'm here in my car. I'm here in the infinity of the horizon, sitting here, watching the picture in my consciousness change. Okay? My here includes everything to the horizon in all directions. And what I'm conscious of, what's in that consciousness, is just changing. Okay? So that would be an exercise for practicing being here. Then you can, of course, bring that experience to when you're walking, and then you can bring that experience to when you're just sitting. I can either be sitting here, or I can be sitting in my omnipresence, in my universal here. And there are two very different experiences that you can have in your consciousness, and you'll start liking the universal here. So that's our practice and our homework. And let's just, one more point. Why is there an obstacle? What's the price that we pay for not being omnipresently here? What's the price we pay for being somewhere? I won't even say there. What's the price I pay for being somewhere? You know what? You know what the cost is? The cost is that God is here. What is here. What is omnipresently here. What is not somewhere. If I'm somewhere, as distinct from here, then I'm godless. Then I'm human. I'm having the human experience. The presence of God is not in my life. The presence of God is not in my experience. I'm cut off from what is. I'm having my little fantasy over here being somewhere. And I'm cut off from what is. I'm in the dream, I'm in the bubble, I'm in the human consciousness, I'm the little guy in my dream that thinks he's crossing that street and thinks his here is that street. Okay? And he's not aware of what's going on. So the price of not being here is that you're cut off from what is. You're cut off from transcendental consciousness. You're limited to being human. And if you're in transcendental consciousness, you are omnipresently here. If you achieve transcendental consciousness even for a moment by any means, then in that moment you are omnipresently here. And if you are not here, omnipresently here, you are not in transcendental consciousness. So it's an old habit of being somewhere, but it is definitely an obstacle and a block for being in the transcendental consciousness.
I've read that and heard that a bunch, but I just heard it tonight that still I thought that omnipresence meant everywhere at once, but it doesn't. It means everything's here.
Yeah, everywhere is the wrong word. The word should be every here at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Omnipresence.
Because everywhere, there's still an idea that it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
I heard that and read it, and it didn't.
I've started using the word every here. I am every here. I used to, many years ago now, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, I starting every meditation I did with that old mantra, peace be still and know that I am God. And I meditated with peace be still and know that I am God, and I am here. And when I started that, I was saying those words. But every time I sat down to meditate, and I still do it, I start with that, okay? And after a period of time, it started saying, I am here. I'm not hearing voices booming out of the sky, but suddenly I say, peace be still, and know that I am God, and I get the sense of, and I am here. And then it went on to say, and I am all that is here, and I am all here. And then it said, and I am every here. That's the same everywhere. And so that's now part of my meditation. That's an experience that I can have anytime I choose to go there. And it always confirms that I am every here. And I am all here. And I am all that is here. So here is a very favorite word for me, having done that. What else? Anybody? Yeah, please, Christy.
The exercise I thought was really interesting because when I was having a lot of anxiety attacks and stuff like that, I was dealing with it. I was working a lot with my kid, and one of the exercises that I do is I play a game that I call the virtual Christie ride. It's a lot like the car when you're not in the car, you're in the car and everything's coming to you. I would play for my kid because the get behind me kid thing was like my kid didn't, that part of me didn't really respond well to that. So, and I think it was because I was a little bit better able to get in touch with the I, which was to tell that part of me that was really afraid that the world was actually coming to us, and you were just sitting in a virtual Christie ride, and even if we died or anything like that, you can just get out and go somewhere else. So like I had to sit and go through, the biggest one was I had to go take care of some sort of warrants for unfilled out paperwork. I have many things like that happened to me, and we were going to go to the courthouse, and I was like, come on, we're going to go on the virtual Christie ride, get in here, and then everything's going to work out just fine no matter what they do. Do you know what I mean? Even if they, because a big part of me thought we were going to get slammed into jail and horrible things were going to happen, and then I lose the feeling in my face, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so we go on the virtual Christie ride, and we hit the judge, that's all, and everybody just plead guilty and I'll give you the lightest charge, you know what I mean? It was just sort of, everything just seemed to really work out, but the concept of telling myself that the world was sort of coming to the body of Christie, you know what I mean? Like, sort of like when you put the goggles on when you go to Universal Studios or something like that, and when you started talking about the car, do you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, it was like that, except for not really car, more just like smaller, me, instead of going bigger. Sure. But I thought that was pretty cool.
And it's exactly right. This is definitely a virtual e-ride. That's the point, is you take that car, learn to do that in the car, but then start doing it when you're walking around.
Yeah.
And then start doing it when you're sitting around.
Yeah, it seriously cuts into the I feel like I'm going to die feeling that I used to have a lot.
Sure. I like that. So everybody practice your virtual fill in the name ride. That's a good one. Who else? Got plenty of time. This is going fast. 2 years of not having to share because we were listening to tapes and spoiled it. Nobody wants to say anything. It's okay with me. Let's be quiet for another 5 minutes, and then we'll call it an evening. So this class has been recorded, and they all will be, and if you are registered, then you're on the email list, and I will send you the link to to the audio file. We'll let you know where the audio files will be, but I'll send you the username and password so that we can continue to have some privacy in this. So most of you are already registered, in which case you'll get a username and password so that you can listen to the audio files. And not that I think you need to listen to these over and over like we did the Herb tapes, but they'll be there. And if you miss a class, for instance, you can certainly tune in the next day on your computer and listen to it. So it's available, and I hope we'll see you next week. And thanks for coming, and I love you all.
These last two bird cakes are really wonderful. Maybe choose them there a little bit.
Yeah, they're still there. They'll be up there for a while, the last few pages. Thanks, everybody. Love you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.